Hey guys, Otaku here, and real quick before we get into the video, I just want to give you all a real big thank you for the 2 milestones that we ended up hitting last year, and just overall the insane growth that I have seen in the last couple months on the channel. So for those who don't know, I did take a big break from YouTube to focus on streaming, and then now I'm no longer streaming and focusing on YouTube. And since my return to YouTube, I have started doing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. And since then, I have broke 1,500 subscribers. And then in a matter of a month and a half, literally minutes before the new year, I broke 1,600 subscribers. And overall, I cannot have done it all without you guys. And I appreciate you all for helping me break both those milestones. Since then, we are at 1,605 subscribers, so the growth is still very steady and moving. But also overall, I want to thank you all for just the insane growth that the channel has seen just in terms of videos as well. We do have a couple of the oddballs, like my collection video only got 29 views. The ban list reaction only got like 85 views. But overall, the channel has been seeing very good support, and I cannot thank you all enough for that. Just overall, I have gotten an idea or a gist of what you all like to watch, and that is primarily my format tier lists, the prediction tier lists, deck profiles. That is primarily what you're here to see, and even some like format or just discussion videos overall. I have gotten the gist that you all don't really like watching me open packs, and you know what? That's fair. I don't really have the personality for it. So moving into this next year, I do have some ideas on things I want to do. I do want to do more vlogging for when I go to regionals or even when I go to locals. So the plan is actually this week's locals that I'm going to try and do some vlogging. So we'll see how that plays out. And also we're going to be cutting, of course, the pack opening content. And just overall, I'm hoping that the channel will continue to be entertaining and provide you all with content that you will look forward to watching every week. If the channel continues to see a constant rate of support, I will try and start consistently doing 2 videos a week, but I cannot promise that because my real life schedule doesn't always permit me to be able to do stuff like that. But basically what I'm trying to say is, once again, thank you all for an amazing 2023. And let's hopefully have another really good year in 2024. So with that, let's move on to the actual video. All right, welcome back to another deck profile, everybody. So today we're going to be covering Bystial Runick. Now, I want to give a heads up real quick. I am no Joshua Schmidt. I am no pro player by any means. I do play the game very competitively, and I do like to think that I am somewhat good at this game, but I am not a pro player by any means. That also being said, there are cards that should be in this deck that, quite frankly, I just don't own, and they're expensive. So this is just kind of what I've been working with and what I've been seeing success with since I've built the deck. So with that, let's just jump right into it. So of course, we are going to have the 3 guiding Quems. You can cut this to 2 if you want, but I personally want to see it at 3. I always want to be seeing this card because I want to dump one of the several targets this card can dump, and we want to make sure we get our tuners on the board, and this is the quickest way to do it. So of course we always want to be seeing this card. The cards that we are most likely going to be dumping off of it is Blazing Cartesia, Incredible Ecclesia, the Golden Sword Soul, or the Bystial Runick. There are a handful of there's a handful of like situations on which one you would dump and when. Realistically, if you open Quem and Cartesia, you can dump a Luber. A Luber becomes Albaz in the graveyard, so you can special Cartesia from the hand. If you dump Ecclesia, you can then go, and then you, once you get Ecclesia back out of the graveyard, you can summon the Golden Sword Soul. And the Golden Sword Soul, for those who don't know what this card does, if a monster is banished face up, you can special summon one of your spellcasters with the same attack and defense that's banished. But you obviously have to banish the Golden Sword Soul from the graveyard or the field. It's just a really good card. It helps you recycle some of your banished resources, on top of the fact that, you know, this deck already recycles banished resources very well. So, and then Cartesia is just used as a tuner. I tried running the Grand Granole package, and we'll get more into that when we get to the extra deck. It just clogs up the extra deck and doesn't really, just feels like it doesn't plus at all. So for our Bystials, I run 2 Bystial Lubellion. I'd be running 3 if I had a 3rd copy. I unfortunately do not, and it's like $20-$30. Just haven't gotten around to buying it. But if you can, and I repeat this, if you have 3 copies, run 3 copies. This is the card you want to see the absolute most, even over Quem, because this just opens the line to get into the rest of your Bystials and just drawing 1,000 times on your turn. So if you have 3 copies, run the 3rd copy. I'm just working with what I have. So 1 Bystial Mag because he's limited, 1 Bystial Druis because, you know, he's one of the better Bystials, 1 Bystial Baldrake, and then I run 2 Bystial Saronir. I run the 2nd Saronir simply because I don't have a 3rd Lubellion. If I had a 3rd Lubellion, I would cut Saronir down to 1. But Saronir is just, we're trying to see Lubellion as much as possible so we could dump Saronir like off of a discard or something, and then Saronir can dump Lubellion, and then we can still get to Lubellion that way. But Saronir is primarily just to get to Lubellion. There's also just some plays where you can dump, like if Saronir hits the grave, you can dump the Bystial Aluber, and then Aluber's engraved to special Cartesia if you just didn't see Quem or something. Saronir does have more application than just getting to Lubellion, but we primarily run the second one to see Lubellion as much as possible. And then for the rest of the monsters, we just run 3 Ash Blossom, Joyous Spring. There's not a lot of room for like non-engine in this deck because Runick is pretty much the non-engine. It just clogs the deck with, and it has plenty of interruption on its own. So Ash Blossom, you know, it just hits everything. I don't really need to explain Ash Blossom, just 3 Ash Blossom. If you want to try and fit like Ghost Spells or Drolls in here, more power to you. I just want to keep the deck down to 40. As for Runicks, we of course run 2 Runick Fountain because it's semi-limited. I honestly don't think we'd be running it at 3 even if it was at 3. 3 Runick Tip because some reason this card is still not on the ban list of any sort, and it is the best card in the deck. 3 Runick Destruction for back row pop. 3 Flashing Fire for monster pops. 3 Freezing Curses for target negation, which is arguably the best form of negation right now. We do run 3 Slumber and then 1 Dispelling. Dispelling is arguably like is the most situational of the Runick cards. You could, of course, if your opponent activates a card that's going to add something to their hand, Chain Tip to add Dispelling, and then on resolution hit them with Dispelling. Dispelling also is just kind of the one where you can just summon. You can summon without losing any of the other ones, which are more valuable in many other situations. But Dispelling, and then also, you know, Fountain puts it back in the deck. So you really only need the 1 of this. And then Slumber, card actually comes in clutch sometimes, making it so your opponent just can't attack. But also making certain things not be able to destroy by card effects. If you're going against Unchained players and they're targeting their own monsters, you can go Slumber to target that, so that way it can't be destroyed. So the remaining non-engine, not very many. We run 2 Duality. I tried running 3, and unfortunately I just don't have enough Duality targets in my extra deck to justify running the 3rd one. Duality is a good card that you could just discard it off of Hugin's effect to be able to just get its graveyard effect to draw, and then also recur some of your resources in the graveyard. But realistically, again, I just didn't have enough targets in my extra deck to be able to utilize Duality as much as possible, so I didn't think the 3rd one was necessary. I still want to see this card a lot, but I don't want to see it all the time. And you know, it's always the worst thing seeing it in your hand more, seeing more than one in your hand at the same time. So then we run 2 Branded Regained. This is primarily if they get rid of the first one, you have the second one, because once Regained is in the graveyard, it's not really possible to get it back. This is like your best card in the deck. This is how you can use like Little Knight or Sleipnir to banish one of your opponent's light or dark monsters, and then Regain will put it back, and then on end phase your Sleipnir or Little Knight will come back, but obviously their monster will not. Just gives you a bunch of draw power. This card's insane. And then of course it can special Bystials from the graveyard as well. So the card is actually just crazy. And it helps you just recur resources. And then my last one, and this is kind of a personal spice. I don't know if anyone else is running this. I run a 2 to the Branded. This card is crazy. For those who don't know what this card does, it lets you essentially Synchro Summon on your opponent's turn as long as one of the materials is a Bystial, or a Dark Dragon, which is a Bystial. But also, as long as you have a Bystial on the field, any monsters your opponent uses to summon Links, Synchros, Fusions, Xyz, will go to the graveyard. So, or sorry, no, they'll get banished instead. So it's like Shifter at home, essentially, or like Macrocosmos for monsters. The card's actually kind of crazy, and it can still be, it could be activated from deck by Bystial Rebellion. The card is really cracked. And this, again, this lets you Synchro Summon on your opponent's turn as long as one of the materials is a Bystial. So this is a personal spice for me. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I really like it. It feels really good to use because it makes players like Unchained players. I know Unchained's not the best deck in the game anymore, but Unchained still is a formidable deck, and a lot of decks right now are link summoning, and they don't want their resources banished. Like Fire Kings don't want to be banished. Snake Eyes don't want to be banished. And Rescue Ace doesn't really... They don't mind being banished, but they kind of want to do banishing on their own terms. So I think this card is actually like... I think we're ahead of our time on the Two to the Branded, personally. But yeah, let's just jump into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start with the Runicks. We run 2 Hugin. We run 1 Sleipnir, 1 Gary. And then I don't own a Chaos Angel, and Chaos Angel is like $90 fucking. So I do run 1 Munin. This is time. That's all Munin is for. It's a time card. I had 1 extra slot in my extra deck, so because I don't own Chaos Angel, so I was just like, I'll just throw Munin in just for shits and giggles. Because again, time cards do come up. They're not consistent, but they come up. Otherwise, it's just kind of a dead card until I get Chaos Angel into the deck. But until I can accrue $90+, we're going to have to stick with Munin. As for just synchros, we run 1 Coral Dragon and 1 Tri-Edge Master. These are kind of 50-50, depends on what your board is looking like or what it's going to look like. Tri-Edge Master is not a tuner, it still draws you a card when you summon it. Coral Dragon draws you a card when it hits the graveyard, but it's a tuner, so, you know, ideally if you have like Gary on board or something, you can use this as material to still go into Baron. It just depends on what your end board is going to look like or how it's shaping. But other than that, there's nothing really special about these. We have, of course, Bystial Dispatter, just cracked card. Let it banish it. It can revive your banished monsters. It can, you know, negate. It can destroy a card. It's got a lot of versatility. Baron de Fleur. I don't need to explain Baron. Cheng Ying. Cheng Ying's really good. If a card is banished on either field, or sorry, if a card is banished at all, you can then activate his effect, target a card in your opponent's graveyard and on your opponent's board, banish both of them. And then, of course, if he is going to be destroyed in any form, not once per turn, he can banish a card from the graveyard, which then, if you haven't already done it, will trigger his other effect. Card's cracked, and also, of course, he gains 100 attack for every banished card. So, and then we have Centurion Legacia. This is if you end on like a board with Bystial Rebellion and Quem. You can still, and you have like a 2 to the Branded, you can still go into Centurion Legacia, and then if you do it at the right time, it'll draw you a card, but then also pop the monster with the highest attack on your opponent's board. Card's really crazy, actually, but very situational. Would not recommend just summoning this willy-nilly, especially if you just want to draw a card. I would not recommend summoning this. Then we have, you know, SP Little Knight, most broken card in the game, combos really well with Branded Regained. But again, just most broken card in the game. If you're not running this, you're just crazy. And then we have our duality targets. We have Alvain, the Essence of Vanity. We can summon this if we need a tuner on the board, because Hugin is a level 2 light fairy. This is the level 2 dark fairy. So we can use this to summon, or we can use this if your opponent's using like Imperm or Veiler to target the Hugin, we can dodge it, summon this, and still get the Hugin effect, but also we still have that tuner on the board. Scarlight, Red Dragon Archfiend. Again, another time card. It is a level 8. You can raw summon this if you want to. However, you can just summon this off of duality. If your opponent's trying to Imperm or Veiler, or just overall negate your Lubellion duality. This is a level 8 dark dragon. Lubellion is a level 8 light dragon. So there are, you know, he is a duality target. And then this is kind of a me thing. Again, I don't have Chaos Angel and I don't have the Fabled Unicorn. So I run the Golden Cloud Beast Malong. You can hard summon this with like Alvain and some other level 4, or your, you know, Hugin with that, because it is level 6. However, you could just summon this with The Bystials. The Bystials are level 6 dragon dark monsters. This is level 6 light dragon. So it is a duality target, and it is a tuner. So you can still use it, and once it hits the graveyard, it can return a card on your opponent's board back to the hand. So it does have some versatility other than just being a duality target. But that's really it for my extra deck. It's nothing special because, you know, most of the action is like this top row. Duality just serves its purpose sometimes. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. Side deck is not a one-to-one thing. If you are just trying to net deck, I would not recommend copying the side deck. For the most part, there are cards that need to be in the side deck for most people, regardless of any situation. But side decks are primarily formed around what you're expecting to play at your locals, regionals, nationals, worlds, etc., etc. So don't take this, you know, this can be a reference for things that you can look into putting in side decks, but this shouldn't be a one-to-one copy thing by any means, because it is also based off comfort, and again, what you are expecting to run into when you are going to tournaments. So to start, I run one Triple Tactics Talent. I had a flex spot, and you'll see why, but I had a flex spot. I can't imagine this coming up too often, but there might be times where I just want to try and steal a card off my opponent's board or look at their hand or something. It can come in play sometimes, but I had a flex spot in the side deck, didn't really know what to put in there, so I just threw Talent for fun. We have the blowout cards, Duster and Storm. This is primarily for stuff like Labyrinth and Rescue Ace. Try to get as much back row off the board as possible. It does come in handy for Fire Kings because you can destroy the field spell. Yeah, you can destroy the field spell and like Sanctuary and stuff like that. That way, you know, they just don't have that item as a utility. And then, of course, it can put them in a bad spot because, yes, Fire Kings want to be destroyed, so the field spell going to the graveyard and destroying their board can help. But destroying their entire board doesn't always benefit them. So I think, the blowout cards, I think, are still a better choice than stuff like Cosmic Cyclone. 3 Droll and Lockbird. This card is going to be cracked to this format. We're just constantly making it so Droll and Lockbird is just a better card overall. Midadium was untouched, which makes Droll and Lockbird still just one of the best cards. Droll and Lockbird I put in the side, though, because I just don't foresee... It doesn't work in every situation. Droll and Lockbird also just kills Fire King in like almost any form. It's going to kill stuff like Sinful Spoils. It's just overall a really good card. I just don't think it kills every deck, so I wouldn't put it in the main deck personally. We do run 3 Ghost Bell in Haunted Mansion. This card not only is good for the mirror match, or just the Runick mirror match in general, but this card hits a lot of the best cards in the format going forward. It hits Wanted. It hits Branded, funny enough, if they're trying to gimmick puppet lock you. Just Ghost Bell overall is going to hit some of the best decks in the format. So I think if you're not running Ghost Bell in the main, you should definitely be running it in the side. 3 Denko Sekka. This is kind of like a deck. This is kind of a tech I just kind of took from Joshua Schmidt. I won't even lie. I like Denko Sekka. I always try and run it in like any deck I can. But right now we're in a format where most decks need their normal summon. But however, this deck doesn't always need its normal summon. So you can justify playing Denko Sekka, and as Joshua Schmidt said, this is primarily for, Labyrinth, which is going to be very prevalent in the upcoming format, Rescue Ace, which is still quite prevalent in this current format, and you can even use it on Unchained, which will still see play at like regionals, because the deck isn't completely dead, but it's not completely playable either. But Denko Sekka, just still overall really good card, and if you can afford to play it, if you don't need a normal summon in your deck, I would recommend playing it, because it becomes more prevalent, especially with Transaction Rollback coming out soon. Being able to summon this is going to prevent a lot of shit from going down. And then our last 2 cards is Dino Wrestler Pankratops. This card is insane. If you can play Pank, you should be playing Pank right now. Pank is really good because Anti-Spell Fragrance was one of the floodgates not touched on the ban list, and Pearly is still prevalent. Runick is very prevalent. And with that being a thing, if a deck can run Anti-Spell, it's going to be running Anti-Spell Fragrance. So Dino Wrestler Pankratops is your out Anti-Spell, because you can summon Pank and then activate his effect to dodge anything that would try and negate him and pop Anti-Spell. And then you can continue to try and play the game, especially if you don't have Runick Destruction to chain to the Anti-Spell. tank is gonna go a long way. So that is really it. I'm not gonna do a test hand like I normally do, because Runick decks are really hard to do like test hands for, because it is so very reliant on what your opponent's doing. Runick is a deck that has to adapt to your opponent and mold around your opponent, and that's hard to do in a test hand where we don't have an opponent. We have a fictional opponent that doesn't have any interruption, or we're going first and stuff. So it's just an overall really hard deck to do test hands for. You need physical practice with a deck like this. So again, no test hand. But thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like, and also subscribe if you're not already. We hit a big milestone at the end of last year, and I want to keep that growth going. So if you're not already and you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a subscribe. Comment below what you think of the deck and what deck you're going to be running going into the new format. We have Maze coming out in like a week, and we already know all the reprints. And so yeah, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful week.